Hello and welcome to Food for Thought. I'm your host, Ramona Singh, and it's always a pleasure to spend this time with you with thought-provoking conversations and ideas, and hopefully also inspiring. Today we're going to talk about what is a spiritual partnership, and it's a great show. You want to stay tuned. It is a brand new show on Y Media. It airs on Sundays at 10 a.m., 4 p.m., and 10 p.m. And joining me in studio is Group Editor Yudhvir Jaswal. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Ramona ji. Thank you so much for asking, and I hope our viewers are going to enjoy today's topic. What is the topic for the day?
The topic is, what is a spiritual relationship? And, you know, we were talking about relationships last week, and this is something that we touched upon, and we thought, okay, you know what, it's probably best to spend some time on and dedicate a lot of time to it in terms of what it is. And essentially, Gary Zukav, where most of this conversation that we're going to have today, these are all his theories. I would highly urge anybody who hasn't heard of Gary Zukav to definitely look him up. His book, Seed of the Soul, will absolutely change your life when you read it. And a lot of these ideas are from his book that I want to share with you. As I became aware of it, it really changed the way I do things and the way I look at things, and I would say it's added a lot more meaningful meaning to my life and purposeful actions behind what I do, and obviously my intentions.
Wow. And just as we're talking about spiritual partnership, I think we need to discuss what spirituality means. What does spirituality mean to you?
So spirituality means to me is that it's about my soul. My soul's journey is prior to this body, this personality, this person called Ramona, and it will live beyond me, right? A soul cannot be created nor destroyed because it's energy. And understanding that there's a greater purpose than just the mundane things that you do day to day, and that there is a connectedness, not just with other human beings, but with all living beings. That includes all of nature. And it's beyond what you can physically see, as we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. So that's what spirituality means to me. And the practice of spirituality is to be able to be more in touch with those ideas, and understanding my life is it's just a short period of time here, and I'm here to learn certain things. That is my soul's journey, and I'm given every chance and opportunity to make better decisions.
Wow. And just for viewers' benefit, you know, before we go any further, we like to tell you, I've been in only two professions up until now in my life, you know, and one was engineering before I joined media. And I've always said this many times on air. I doubt as an engineer I could really know even 1% of the engineering field, but because the field itself is so vast. If today anybody asks me what's the chemical composition for aviation fuel, I wouldn't know exactly. I couldn't break it down because the engineering field is so vast. And very similarly, the media field is quite vast too. So when we're talking about spirituality or anything else, we're not trying to tell you that this is exactly what it is. We're just discussing this. This is just food for thought, as the name itself suggests. So this is just, we're trying to give our opinions, our viewpoints, just to trigger a thought, food for thought. And I think there are many people, just for our viewers' benefit, like to tell you that there is some sort of difference between religion and spirituality, because many people say, yes, there could be some sort of overlap between religion and spirituality. Could be, I'm not even sure about that because I'm not an expert on that one. But certainly spirituality has a total different dynamics, and religion is a total different thing. Like exploring my own spirituality, I would say for me, spirituality means number one thing is being grateful. That's very important for me. Being kind, love, emotions, let it go, forgiveness. And of course, if I have to sum up in one line, for me, spirituality simply means finding the purpose of my life. And I think whatever emotions I've explained just now, I feel these are the purpose of my life, and you rightly said so. And in my life, I think where religion finishes, that is the point where spirituality starts for me. Religion, as much as, you know, it's very beneficial because it does guide us with some boundaries and certain restrictions. But spirituality means, as a kid, I grew up in a convent school, so I was influenced pretty much. We used to read Bible from the Christianity aspect, and of course being brought up with Sikh background, so I know a lot about the Sikh religion as well. I studied Buddha-ji a lot recently. And as much as I think that it's a total different dynamics, but this is what spirituality means. But we'll leave that for some other day, but we just wanted to address spirituality. Ramona ji, we're talking about spiritual partnership today. But before we dwell into the spiritual partnership, I want to know your opinion. What is authentic power?
Authentic power, that's fantastic. It's what Gary Zukav describes, where your personality meets the energy of your soul.
Okay.
So I know that's a lot of words put together right now, and I can't express to you how much, read The Seat of the Soul. It goes into much more information than what we're going to share with you today. But essentially, understanding that your soul is here, it is forever living, and your personality is just in this body. It's what the gifts that you're given right now as Yudhvira Jaswal, who is able to communicate very well. It's able to obtain a lot of information and categorize it in his mind and deliver it in a chronological order that makes sense, and also is able to amass viewership and listenership with the way he's able to communicate. That is your personality.
Okay.
Right? Those are parts of your personality. I mean, there's so much more to you as a person. But imagine if you were to use those gifts of your personality to meet the purpose of your soul. Because you're here, your soul is forever living, and your soul has a purpose, and there's lessons that need to be learned, and there is an elevation to your soul as you meet those challenges or those things that you confront, and you make the right decisions each time, understanding that we're all connected. All of humanity, all of creation, you and the tree, like everything is interconnected. And so it's about using your personality to be able to do your soul's work. Not because I think when we're in this world, we are raised to have an identity as for example, me, Ramona, this is my personality, this is my individuality compared to your individuality, right? And there's so much importance that's put on the personality, but that is the finite aspect of your short-lived life here, your physical life. So if you can use the gifts you have that are your personality to meet the purpose of your soul and the energy of your soul, that is authentic power. And now, when you focus on your personality, for example, then you're pursuing external things, such as the title, the job title, the amount of money in your bank account, vanity, how do I look, right? Am I wearing the right things? Do I look the right way? Am I speaking? What's my education? Who am I affiliated to? Those are external powers that if we're not aware of the authentic power, those are things we chase. And at the end of the day, that's not necessarily what's going to make you happy, right? If you get the bank balance that you want, if you have the right degree and title after your name, or the prestigious job, or where you live, or any of those multiple things that are external, then you're always at the mercy of those physical things in this world that is not a reality. It's part of an illusion of what you're striving for, and at the end of the day, it doesn't make you happy. You know that long study in Harvard University in terms of what makes you happy, over 75 years, a lot of people thought it was going to be money, power, attainment of success, being famous, and they only realized it's actual human connection. That's what makes you happy. But we're now talking about another level of happiness, which is being authentically yourself. And that also means taking full responsibility of who you are, all your life experiences, understanding that the buck stops at you. I know you may say it when you're running an organization and say, if anything goes wrong in the organization or anything goes well in the organization, it stops with me. But think of it in your entire life. Everything is you. So if something goes wrong, it's not that person who's upset you or this situation that's not working out. It's all you. And that is when you take that level of responsibility and you want to achieve the best in yourself that you can, which is part of the purpose would be to meet your highest self-expression. What is the highest self-expression? If I ask you, are you right now living your highest self-expression? You may say yes, or you may say no. You may say this is good for right now, but there will come to a time where there'll be another self-expression that I want to live. that I want to experience, that my soul wants to experience, then I'm going to use my personality to be able to express that energy of the soul to do that soul's work. Does that explain it in a way? Did I do it justice? I don't know.
Yes, you
Yeah,
did.
okay.
Actually, it makes perfect sense. And I couldn't agree more, though it has triggered a lot of questions as well, and I'm going to definitely ask those questions. But let me start with one point that you just mentioned. Yes, I couldn't agree more on this point regarding happiness. Of course, as much as we all aspire for materialistic aspects of life, whether it's a job title, whether it's a bank balance, or a house, or whatever it could be, and our physical presence as well. But you're right. I think the happiness has to come from inside, because then that stays permanent. And as I was discussing earlier as well, one of the major aspects, this is what I felt, I'm just going to share my experience here. This is what I felt. I think one of the permanent source of happiness could be being grateful, because there are many emotions within ourselves which could make us happy, and then happiness comes from inside. And you take gratefulness out of a person, I doubt he's ever going to be happy, because he cannot appreciate anything. If you've got a great life partner, you're not grateful, you're not going to appreciate that. If you're grateful for with nature, to God, or anybody, right in the morning, that wow, I live in a house, at least I don't have to worry, I'll get food throughout the day. We have to be grateful. What clean water, clean air, nice people, nice surroundings, everything. You can appreciate millions of things. So I think gratefulness is the key ingredient. This is what I think, which brings happiness from within. Second, I would say love. If you're kind, if you are loving, if you're forgiving, if you can let go things, all these emotions, all these things within you, they are a major source of happiness. Then you're not really looking at other things, And I've realized this in the last few years, and I think Buddhaji had a massive influence on all these things. Let me throw a question at you before we talk about the spiritual partnership. If I were to look back 15 years ago, I never realized all these things. As much as I knew a bit of all these things, I did discuss all these things right from my childhood. What's my purpose of life, what we should be doing, with many religious scholars as well. I've done that right through my childhood. But I didn't realize for many years. My question to you is, many of our viewers are watching. They could ask this question, why? Because at the end of the day, we all aspire to have good bank balance, good title, good house, flashy cars, clothes, and our physical presence. It matters to us. So why wouldn't we follow all these things? And how could this inside be a permanent source of happiness? That's the question.
The inside be
A permanent source of happiness. Why?
The external stuff, you mean?
Why we shouldn't aspire for all these external stuff? Why?
Yeah.
Because it is attractive. It attracts us, and we do want all these things, and these things could bring us happiness instead of all these internal things. Why?
So the point of the conversation is not to deter anybody from going after these external things. It's about how are you prioritizing things, right? If that's your priority, then you would have missed the objection of your life, right? Which is to be here to work on and the reason Gary Zukav calls it authentic power is because nobody can take that away from you. When you use your personality to meet the energy of your soul to do your soul's work, because your soul is greater than your personality. Ramona's personality, could be many things, but it's nothing in comparison to Ramona's soul that is here and that is far greater than my physicality and my short-lived experience of the number of years I've been in this world, for example, and my experiences and my very limited perspective of life because of my age, because of my destination, because of so many factors. So it's not to say don't go for the external things. Yes, make a living and make the level of wealth you want, enjoy it. All those are great things, but that is not the all and be all because otherwise, for example, we just had a provincial election, and Andrew Horvath, who's the leader of the NDP, on the night of the election, she made the decision to leave the leadership of the NDP after 13 years, after 4 elections. And that image of her reaching out with the tissue to to wipe her tears and her speech is in my mind because that's not completely her, right? That's not her authentic power. Those are external things. That is the job of the office, right? When you, for example, if you're an elected official, if you believe that this is you, no, that is the role, the title, the access, the influence comes from the title of that office. That's not, and that office will have many people who was before you and many people after you, right? Your self-esteem, your identity cannot be associated to something that's outside of you. That is what I mean by the external aspect. That is far different than the internal, which is what gives you that authentic power that nobody can take away from you. No incident, no level of historic facts or any of those can take away from you.
Yeah, very nicely explained. I think you've very nicely explained that spiritual growth. When you're on this path, not many people can take that away from you. Once you decide it, so if you decide that yes, I'm going to stay happy, if you decide I'm going to be grateful, nobody can take that away from you. Who's going to take that away from you? If early morning you wake up and you say, I'm going to thank my parents, first of all, always, whether they're physically present with you or not, you could always thank them. I do that every morning. My dad is not biologically present with me, physically present with me, but you can always thank your parents, first of all. You could thank your sisters, brothers, all your siblings, cousins, friends for being so nice. You could thank your life partner. For sure, you should do that. Many times you take them, for granted. You could thank your kids for being so nice. You could thank your grandkids for being so nice. You can thank so many things. Nobody can take this feeling of being grateful from you. That's one thing. I really like that part, that when you say nobody can take that away from you. If you want to love someone, nobody can take that away from you. That's your choice. Can anybody stop you from loving anyone? No, not at all. Once again, this is path to spiritual growth. Can anybody stop you from being kind? Of course not. We're all very kind. Basically, as a human being, we are very kind. I think we just need to look inside, and that kindness will start growing by itself. So can anybody take that away from you? To your point, absolutely not. So I think, can anybody ask you shouldn't be forgiving? No. Forgiveness, let go. As I know sometimes it does sound easier than said, but if you make a habit of letting go things, I made this as a habit. I tell this to myself all the time. If someone has done anything wrong with you, let go right away. Thank you. I don't have time, please. And I don't even say this, God will do any justice. No. Because I'm seeking forgiveness every day, so I let go. But I make it a point, if anybody in my life has done anything good in my life, I definitely want to make sure that yes, I acknowledge that. So letting go, acknowledging, being grateful, all these things, I don't think so anybody can take that away from you. Now moving on to another point. Before I ask you how spiritual growth, two questions here for you. Before I ask you how spiritual growth can really help us in creating authentic power, but I think the viewers are going to ask us, as much as I try to explain, I'm trying to learn here today from Ramona ji. As much as I aspire, I'm trying to go on this journey as well. How do you increase your spiritual growth? Because if you're trying to increase your growth, because then my next question would be, on the path to spiritual growth, how do you create authentic power? But before I create that, how do you increase your spiritual growth?
The increasing of your spiritual growth on a rapid acceleration is through spiritual partnership.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, yes, and that's the amazing part about spiritual partnerships. So let's talk about what that means.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So, spiritual partners. Now, it's not in the confinement of friendships or marriage.
Okay.
Spiritual partnerships, according to Gary Zukav, and again, I stress, take a look at his book. And he does have a book on spiritual partnerships, and he discusses this. And he has his partner for a long time, Linda Francis, and they work together and they do a lot of teachings around this. But what it is, it's the meeting of equals in a relationship to accelerate spiritual growth. So what that means is a spiritual partnership is between two equals.
Okay.
So you're neither inferior nor what's the opposite?
Superior.
Superior, yes.
Yeah.
You're neither inferior or superior to one another, right? Because if you're not equal, you're either in one of those two things, and therefore it cannot work. And a spiritual partnership is that you would be honest with one another, and the reason it accelerates your spiritual growth is because people will always trigger you, you know, on a day-to-day basis. And what that is, it's not because that person is upsetting you, but it is they're raising awareness in a part of you. So in your personality, and that's why we're talking about authentic power, and we talked about the personality will have fear aspects of it or love. So you could be either in fear or love, and how you choose to respond to things that happen in your day-to-day will give you that option to do either one of those things. And a spiritual partnership is that that person will understand that. So that person's not there to compromise with you when you get triggered. They're not there to make you feel better. They're there to be honest with you. And in a spiritual partnership is when you can say, please share with me what I could do better, or things of myself that I don't see that you see. Share that with me, because that is how I will see the hidden parts of my personality. We can go into another show about like the shadow self, the things that I have rejected in myself by growing up in the environment that I grew up, that I don't even let come out. But your spiritual partner will bring that level of awareness to you. And as they trigger you, you could choose two things: either respond with irritation, frustration, upset, or anger, but that's not them doing it to you. That's just part of your personality being activated in those emotions, which is an opportunity for you to address it, because it's awareness. Oh, wait a minute, why am I reacting to this the way? And you could, in every of those opportunities, choose love and to respond with love and kindness, which actually accelerates your spiritual growth and the ascension of your soul. That is the reason why we're all here. And that also means you're taking full responsibility for yourself. So that's why friends cannot be, not every friend is a spiritual partner, because friends try to console you, try to sympathize with you, try to make you feel better. A spiritual partner is not there to make you feel better, because that will prevent spiritual growth.
3 questions here. First one, you said the spiritual partnership has to be between equals. So how would you define it? I'm sure there's no scientific gauge available to check what's the level of spiritual partnership. So how would you know that these two people are equal? That's question number 1. Yeah, go ahead with that one.
So it's, your souls are equal. Your personalities may not be equal. You'll have gifts I don't have. Maybe I can sing, but you can't, right? Or you can write really well, I can't.
Okay.
Whatever the case is, personalities are not equal. That's why we're talking about authentic power, which is on a soul level. We're not talking about the office you hold, the job title you have, your net worth. We're not talking about those things as equality.
But that part I got.
Yeah.
So here we're talking about equal partners at the spiritual level.
Yes.
So how would we know? Because you said, how would we know that someone is equal? We can have an equal partnership at the spiritual level.
So when you enter into a spiritual partnership, that is when you can be honest with each other and say, please hold me accountable for things that I may have done wrong, or things that I don't see. Bring that awareness to me. And it's always intention. Obviously, a person could be like, there's that level of trust, obviously, you have, honesty that you have, that level of commitment, and immediately you know, because spiritual partnerships end the moment there's not that honesty, and there's no equality, and there's no spiritual growth. That's when a spiritual partnership ends. So spiritual partnership's not a lifetime. It could be, and the best case scenario is when your marriage is with a spiritual partner, right? But not every marriage is with a spiritual partner. It could be. So understand that as long as you have that level of commitment to one another, and that level of honesty and integrity for that, then you will have that equality on the meetings of the soul, because they're there to help you evolve, and you're there to do the same by not trying to make each other happy or compromise or make the other person feel better. But in that moment when that person is triggered, asking them, is this coming from a fearful part of your personality or a place of love? And giving them that opportunity to make that right decision each time. So it's not about even making them feel wrong or right. It's not even about any of those things. It's about understanding that this is a soul here, like whether you believe in reincarnation or not, but you're incarnated in a body. There's a soul in a body that has a name and a personality that is different than the soul. And now we're talking about being able to have the two meet, your personality and your soul. And that person is there to help you through that journey as you are there to help them through that journey as well.
Okay, my question would be, is it really necessary to have spiritual partners? That's question number one. And can someone have multiple spiritual partners at the same time?
Yes, it's necessary to have a spiritual partner. I could grow, Ramona can grow spiritually on her own. But if I want to accelerate my growth, it'd be a lot better if I was with a spiritual partner, and you can have multiple spiritual partners. It's not necessarily, it's a monogamous situation where it's only with one spiritual partner and that's it. Because spiritual partnerships start with the onset of the understanding of what you're both here to do. And the second it ceases to exist, the second your spiritual partner starts making excuses for you or try to make you feel better, when it's an opportunity to actually work on something and to be able to grow, that's when it ceases to exist. So that's the key thing. And if your purpose is to have the highest self-expression as possible on this, remember Maslow's law, which is your basic necessities are food, shelter, water,
Yeah.
and then as you overcome that, then there's your expression, your highest expression, your self-expression. And that's why some people get upset at every birthday, the older they get, because this actual self and the desired self, if the gap is wider and wider within each birthday, you realize, oh my God, 365 days went by, a year went by, and now I'm further than where I thought I would be. Now, let's make sure that your actual self and your desired self is not based on external things, because then you're at the mercy of a recession, you're at the mercy of inflation, you're at the mercy of whether you win an election, you're at the mercy of how somebody treats you, you're at the mercy of all these external things that is not like at all, it is not your self-worth. It's not at all, right? So those are some of the things. And did I answer your question?
You're right. This has got nothing to do with spirituality. Of course not. Yeah. And talking about spiritual partnership, how does the spiritual partnership help in growing our authentic power?
It helps you growing your authentic power because because if I'm by myself, then I'm not challenged.
Okay.
I don't go through any challenges because you're by yourself. Mm-hmm. But when you have a spiritual partner, well, your interaction with them will raise certain incidences where you will get upset or it'll trigger certain things within you. And that is when you have the opportunity to choose love over fear, because we're either in one of those things, right? It's either, so ask yourself, what are the things you fear? There's probably a lot of things that you're not even aware of that will trigger you because that person is in your life. But that's the beautiful thing. The acceleration is that's when growth happens, because when you have a spiritual partner, that's when you're able to address so many aspects of yourself, and then in a very short period of time, you feel better, you look better, things are more clear, you're on the path you're supposed to be, and that's what gives you that authentic power. So I'll give you an example. Okay,
Sure.
So for example, I have the ability to look at complex ideas and explain it, and one of my gifts is to be able to see the gaps in things and be able to make connections and be able to think outside the box for solutions. Now, I could have used those are my personality, part of my personality traits. Those are some of the gifts my personality has. I was a time where my parents wanted me to go to law school, and I had to study for the LSATs, and I had applied. And then there was that moment where I thought, okay, Ramona, do you really want to use this for man-made laws? And no, and I'm not saying anything to put down the profession of law, because it's one of the most esteemed professions. But for me personally, I felt like that is not something I want to use it on to either go and prove something's right or wrong based on my intellectual or my analytical skills. And then there was, my life has been trial and error, right? And I'm happy to say that. There was a time where I wanted to seek a political office. And then I realized, and to do good, but then I realized, but then now I have to always make another party look bad, and I have to differentiate myself in doing something good by making somebody else look bad. Again, I thought maybe it's not the best and I lost, and that was, I think, a gift on its own, because it made me realize that maybe I shouldn't be using my communication skills for that. So part of the reason I want to do this, I'm doing more communications on a media side or doing a show like Food for Thought, is so I could use that to be able, for the energy of my soul, because my soul is, at the end of the day, I want to serve, right? Whether I serve through a legal profession, whether I serve through as a politician, I realized perhaps those are not right for me, not to say anything about those professions. It's right for a lot of other people. And so that is when you choose to use your personality to meet the energy of your soul.
Yeah. Very interesting thing that I want to share with you. I have a picture in my room, and and every day I think these are two people whom for a very long time, even as a kid, as a child when I grew up, I clearly knew this for a fact, and everybody knew this in our family, and there are many others who knew this for a fact. They are spiritual partners. I have a picture in my bedroom, and that's, right from my childhood, I knew this. I've been following them, and I've met both of them many times. And unfortunately, physically, they're not here in this world, but they're both they're spiritual partners. And today, whenever I go out, of course, there's a picture of my parents, then there's a picture of me with my wife, and then there's a third picture of these two people, whom I refer to as BG and Bauji. And they're not married, no. They're two different individuals. They're spiritual partners. And I've learned a lot from them. Our family has actually changed looking at these two spiritual partners. And they have a massive influence on our family, on me, and everyone in our family. As a matter of fact, my trajectory of life has changed a lot because of these two spiritual partners. But actually getting to understand what is spiritual partnership, what is authentic power, honestly, I must say this, that I learned a lot from you today. And I'm just sharing my experience, another experience with you today. After learning from BG and Bauji, these two spiritual partners, after listening to many things what Buddhaji has to say, and trying to learn things from the Sikh religion and other things, and trying to learn about spirituality, one thing I've started believing more and more, and I remember Buddhaji mentioning it very clearly, that apna path khud chuno, apna rasta swayam taym karo. I mean, create your own path. I think so, and I want your opinion on this one. I think so. Whenever we're on any spiritual journey, whether it's creating a spiritual partnership or a journey or whatever it is, I don't think so there is any set or defined path. Because then, if I say this is a set path, this is a defined path, then I'm again confining to the religious aspect of it. Because this is how in my opinion, this is how I differentiate. When I talk about religious aspects, as much as it gives me the ground, the religious aspect, whether it's the Sikh religion or the Hindu religion or the Christianity or Buddhism, all these provide me a solid ground for the spiritual path. But I think when you start the journey of a spiritual path, I see there is no set path, no, and it cannot be. If we have to confine, this is what you need to do, this is what you do not need to do, I think then I think the very purpose is defeated. That yes, the spirituality begins when religious restrictions are not there, and you explore your own path, and maybe through a spiritual companion, spiritual partnership, maybe through one, maybe multiple of them, And I agree. I purposely asked you this question because I've been seeing that picture through my child, and I have that picture. And yes, BG and Bauji, they, as much I would never question them because I hold them in very high esteem, but I wanted to ask you because I saw that myself live, how spiritual partners connect and they lift each other. Please.
They lift each other, yes, and not by making excuses for each other, not by compromising, not trying to make each other feel better, but having that honesty with one another and giving each other space to rise to the occasion of choosing love over fear each and every time. And as they discover certain parts of we're talking about two people who are living individual lives who are supporting each other for that spiritual growth. So it's not a codependent relationship or interdependent relationship. And that's what's the beauty of it. And as they give each other the space to deal with every situation that's arising, that is what is able to help them grow. Now, two things that I want to say. Everything's about intention. So if you have the intention to achieve the highest self-expression of your life while you're alive, because you know you have a finite amount of time here, then that intention goes out and your spiritual partner will show up because you have that intention. If you have an intention to feel safe and secure and somebody to make you feel good, then you're going to attract somebody who wants the same exact thing. If you're looking for somebody to save you in a partnership, then you're going to meet somebody who's looking for somebody to save them. So like attracts like. Just always understand that, and so based on what your intention is what will come into your life. So if you really want to get to the best that you could really be, and I'm not talking about external things that we described, but on a soul level that is so much greater than you, so much greater awareness and understanding, and you're saying, you know what, I want my personality to match that and do well. And I think part of what we're doing right now is using your personality to match the energy of your soul, because we're having a soul level conversation and awareness, and our intention for this conversation is so the viewer or the listener can be inspired or triggered in some way to then go on their journey. If that's our intention, then we will have a greater level of response because that energetic thing goes out there, and yeah, so that's the main thing, that it's really about your intention. And the other thing you said is about gratefulness. Yes, if you want more blessings to come into your life, practice being grateful. Right? There's whether you journal 3 things a day that you're grateful for, just understand as soon as you start doing that, there's going to be more blessings that come into your life. So those are key things that are part of spirituality. But if you're looking to accelerate, then you're going to have people come into your life that will help you do that.
Is there any way to really identify, because you said that maybe your life partner is your spiritual partner, maybe not. Maybe your friend is a spiritual partner, maybe not. So how do you really identify that, yes, and you said that earlier in the show as well, that if it is not a spiritual partnership, it will break. But is there any way you can really identify that this is this, instead of doing the hit and trial method, is there any way, okay, I can clearly identify this is a spiritual partner for me?
Yeah, but the two of you will identify it.
Okay.
And that's the commitment that you make to one another about the honesty and the truth that you will have for each other, and to be able to help each other rise in every occasion of challenge versus not. So friends will try to protect you, and for example, let's just say you get fired from your job, right? And a friend will say, oh, you're going to find better things, that place wasn't good for you anyway. They try to protect you, sympathize with you, and say, bring you out of your sorrow, but that's not really going to help you spiritually grow. A spiritual partner would say the other thing, would say, well, what is it about the situation that of your work situation that got to this level? What part of you, is it something that for you to also identify? Maybe I wasn't happy and I attracted the situation where I wasn't going to make a decision to leave, but they made the decision I should leave, and therefore now it's created an opportunity for me to do something that I actually want to do. It's about having that level of awareness and acknowledgement that a spiritual partner will help you do by asking you the right questions, giving you the space to explore, and supporting you through that way. Not supporting you by saying, they didn't deserve you anyway, you're going to do so much better. Do you see the difference of what a friend wants to do for you and what a spiritual partner will do, which will make you see that everything is like there is an intention that you put out there, that you've attracted a situation, there is a correlation of a cause and effect there, and all at the same time, what do you need to learn about the situation that will help you rise? And and the things you were doing, was it coming out of a place of fear? Was it coming? And then you can choose with a spiritual partner. They'll help you choose love each time, because they won't help you. They will ask you. And if you really want to be the best you can be, you're going to choose love by not having feelings of animosity for the people at work or for your superior who let you go, but essentially seeing that on a soul level, they maybe did you a favor. On a soul level, there was something that helped you get on the right path, if that wasn't, or maybe you grew on a spiritual level, which no longer could contain why you should be there in that profession or in that company. That is what a soul partnership does, not a friend. And to that is a soul partner will be brutally honest when it could eventually also hurt the relationship. And because the intention is for spiritual growth, it's not coming from a mean place. So you understanding that this person, if they're saying something to you that may sound hurtful, that make you want to like not talk to them or shut down, the things that people do when you get triggered, you might get irritable, you might get angry, you might shut down, you might want to self-isolate, you might want to say something hurtful back. Those are all coming from a place of fear, right? But when you choose love, you then look at the situation and say, okay, well, how can I respond to this with the best part of myself? Because then that's when my personality is meeting my soul. Because your soul doesn't have those feelings and issues. Your soul's not operating on an ego level. That's your personality. And understanding the difference and understanding what's greater and what should match it. Greater is the soul, personality is what you're doing here. Because that's what shows. And that's when you know the difference. So in a marriage, for example, you don't want to rock the boat, right? You're not going to, there's a problem maybe at times if you're not honest and you don't want to bring up certain issues, and there's that underlying tension, but everything's fine on top. That's when you know you're not in a spiritual partnership, but you can get there. It's a choice between the two participants of that relationship.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. After listening to all this discussion, sometimes what happens is that the person they may not really need the soul level connection or the soul partnership right away, or maybe the soul partnership or the spiritual partnership does come into play, but certain times, maybe for a brief period, the person might need the support, because many times you may not want to hear the right thing. And this is what I've learned the hard way in media as well. Certain times when people are emotionally broken, they're shattered, they don't want to listen to the right thing. Many incidents that have happened in the past, they say, you know what, healing is required right now. If you could really say something to heal, as much as we know what's right, we don't need to listen it from you. So certain times what happens, I'll take the same example as you were saying. If a person has lost a job, the person may not be looking for the spiritual journey or spiritual growth right away. The first thing that the person needs right now, the person could not be emotionally stable. The person could really, you're right, the person could come from a fearful perspective. Oh my God, I lost this job, I have bills to pay, I have 100 things to do. And if you start giving that spiritual growth or healing, that may or may not work. Yes, eventually you want to get that person to the spiritual growth, that level, that hey, you know what? The stability has to come from within. God is there. How old are you? You're 70? Yes. Or you're 60, you're 50, you've been living all this life. God was there, or you were there, whatever energy, whatever power you want to source. You've been living all your life. This job, as much, yes, you've lost this job, it will make a difference, but take it easy, relax, we'll find another one. take it easy. So at that time, you need some consolation. You need to calm that person. Yeah, if that person is spiritually at a certain level, even forget about a very good level, if at a certain level, I'm sure the person is going to take it easy. So what? God is there, or I have power within, I have energy within. So that person will not feel that bad about that job itself. Because sometimes what happens is, as much as you need to do the cardio, as much as you need to do other things, but a person has just suffered a heart attack. At that person, you take them to gym, why did you have a heart attack? Because you're not fit enough. So here I'm going to take you on the treadmill right away and make you fit. That person at that moment needs heart surgery. That person definitely needs some stents going, making sure the arteries aren't clogged up. That person certainly needs some rest for a few months. And then eventually you take the person on the treadmill, your cardio needs to do better, and then eventually you make sure. So I think you're right. The spiritual growth, the spiritual partnership, all these things are really the final answer. And that's where our conversation started. Because then I really like that thing that when you said, you have to have those things that nobody can take away from you. One of the things, I've said it on many shows, and I don't want to say too many things right now, but one of the things that I can certainly, I can't say 100%, but I think I'm pretty much sure on this spiritual journey that yes, that is one thing that nobody can take away from me. I'm trying my best for that. Nobody can really instigate me to think about doing something wrong, let alone really doing something wrong. But that is something that'll always stay with me. Was I like this always? I'm not sure. When I was young, maybe I could retaliate on certain things. But right now, at this age, at this time, I don't think so anybody can really instigate me. They can do anything wrong with me. So I've trained myself. This is one thing that's going to stay with me. My love, like as you were saying, my love for everyone would stay the same. Maybe I may not really want to meet certain people by myself, but if they come in front of me, they could have done anything wrong with me. My love for them, my hug, my love, if there was a gauge, it'll be 100%. So that's going to stay with me. But if somebody was trying to teach me all these things, maybe 10 years, 15 years ago, there was a time I was in a different frame of mind. I didn't have money to pay my bills. I was struggling with this media. And at that time, somebody would have taught me, I'm not sure that this is the path to spiritual growth, focus away from money. Maybe I would have had really hard time and challenging times. As much as when I saw Buddhaji and things changed for me, I was still not 100%, but still in that struggle mode, right? But it changed the whole game for me. It changed my life. But this is...
So to your point, today's conversation is for people who want to achieve authentic power. Okay. This is not for you to impose this on someone at all. So first, it's the intention of oneself to say, I want to achieve authentic power, which is to have my personality meet the energy of my soul, to complement it, and to use my personality to do my soul work. That is my intention. And then also understanding that through this intention and that spiritual journey I'm on, I am going to enter into an agreement with another human being for a spiritual partnership. Again, not imposing myself on another person and saying you're going to have spiritual growth, and just no, it's not about me deciding for you, because then I'm coming from a place of ego. Right? That's why everything is it's mutual and it's an agreement, and you both have the level of understanding. Criteria one, you want to get authentic power and achieve your highest self-expression in this time that you're here on earth. And through that, you need to have that spiritual growth, which will accelerate with a spiritual partnership. And you're both aware of this consensual relationship, of the role that you both play. Because the second someone's pushing you into something you don't want to be, you're no longer spiritual partners. Like it's not a permanent thing. You don't go into a written agreement.
How do you do that? How is it consensual? I mean,
consensual is because you both understand the role you're playing in each other's lives.
But how would you know?
You're in a conversation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Actually,
this is not like, because imagine your spiritual partner, you're able to talk to them about things that you would not talk to other people about because you don't want to upset the relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a consensual, that's why it's consensual. It's an agreement between the two people of what they're going to do for each other, and there's that equality. You don't feel you're greater than that person or inferior or superior, and that's why you're dealing with somebody at an equal level, on a soul level, on a spiritual level, equality, right? It's not about the personality of, oh, I can speak better than you, I can dance better than you. It's not about that, and that is when you then support each other through this spiritual journey. So yes, it's not about projecting it on somebody or forcing it on them. Like, they're not your spiritual partner. Don't do that. They have no interest in any of this. Do not do that.
Okay, so one more clarification here, because I play lots of sports, so I'll use that. You know, in sports, certain times, you know, you're playing soccer and you pass on the ball and you don't say anything. I mean, if someone is standing in front of the goal, it's self-explanatory. I pass on the ball to you, please go ahead, score the goal. Or in other times, you could even say, okay, you pass on the ball, score, goal, or do something. So here in the spiritual partnership, I know I got all that, not you know, imposing on anybody else, but when you say consensual, I mean, I'm not saying there's a written agreement or something like that, but do you really verbally discuss that?
Yes.
Oh, you do that?
Yeah, you verbally discuss it. You say to your spiritual partner, that's when you can ask them to show you parts of you when it comes up. You know, share with me if I've done something wrong. Share with me if I'm not aware of some of my blind spots. You would say that to them, and you would be open to receiving what they have to say.
Before starting, or it's along the way while before starting it?
You could do either one. You could do either one, but then you, first of all, you will, if you have the intention for self-growth, you will acknowledge on a soul level when someone comes into your life to help you with that.
Okay.
But then understanding these scenarios, then you could have those conversations, because that relationship will cease to exist the second you're not honest with one another, the second you are forcing things on each other or trying to make excuses or to compromise or to fix things. It's not about that. And that's why in the scenario of losing your job, when you're on a path of authentic power, you start looking at it on a spiritual level. Like, what actually happened? Did I have the intention to stay here? Was I genuinely happy? What was, because everything that's happening to you in your life, it is all from the inside. It's just your external life is a mirror of what's going on the inside. That's what I mean by taking full responsibility for yourself, your behavior, your actions. Are you going to respond in fear, which would be getting angry, yelling, name calling, passing the blame? Those are all fear-based things. Or is it going to come from a place of love, which is to be able to ascend on a soul level and have that level of compassion? No matter what you said, no matter what someone says to me, I'm going to respond in love, because how I feel love is not based on reciprocation of what you said to me or what you did for me, because that would be on an external level, right? If real love is what you feel for somebody and what you want to do for them in the act of service, and the feeling of kindness, generosity, and good emotions that you have for them, regardless of how they treat you, regardless of what they say to you, regardless of what they do for you. It's not about any of this. It's not a reciprocative, like this for that. It's not a transaction that if you do X, I will reply in Y, and this is the terms of the agreement. That's not love. That's a transaction, right? Service for an exchange for, whatever the service is. That's not what we're talking about here. And when you say that regardless of what the person says or does, I'm still going to feel the feelings of love, that is you in your authentic power, because you're not at the mercy of other people, what they're saying, what they're doing. You're not at the mercy of your bank balance. You're not at the mercy of society. You're not at the mercy of those things.
Right. I think a very interesting discussion that we had today. We wish we could have had more time, but Ramona, thank you so much. Always a pleasure listening to you. And to sum up, I can say, whatever the way we react, the way we behave, or anything that we do, it has a lot to do what is inside us. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. I had a great time in this conversation, and we're always open to any of the conversations or topics that viewers want to hear. So thank you again.